word problems are the most awful stories. So sorry for anybody who loves math and who is a math teacher. It didn't settle in my heart. I'm glad it settled in yours, though, because we need you.
Going to the store and buying 77 bananas.
No, who does that?
Please just hold your breath. Every door looks better when you keep it closed. Keep your head down and don't watch your step. No point in even trying now, just let it go. Maybe they will write the same for me. Maybe this was really just a dream. Don't wanna take that risk and try to see.
Welcome back to another episode of Prodigal Peas in a Pod.
Yay!
I'm Brooke Ackerman.
And I'm Denise Acosta.
And we are going to talk about all kinds of things starting in childhood, and not in a therapy session way.
Or maybe.
But it's really more about inspiration and creativity and where did that come from in our childhoods. But yeah, there's probably going to be some of the heavier childhood stuff too, because I don't know how you talk about childhood without the both sides of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Balance. Balance is key.
Okay, what did you call it? The thing that you sit on with another person and it
A
goes
seesaw.
like, okay.
Would you call it a teeter-totter?
I use both.
Oh, I've never used teeter-totter.
Yeah, whichever one just happens to come out, but I say both.
No, it's definitely a seesaw.
What?
I think there's a newer name for that now. Well, they also don't exist anymore, right?
They don't?
Because aren't they dangerous? Do you remember that thing that was like circular?
Oh,
and you would like
absolutely
spin and people would fly
yes.
off. Yeah.
Yes. We had one in my little town where I grew up.
So
it was
fun.
the best. We loved it.
And the aluminum slides.
Oh, yes. Scorch the back of your legs. Don't go down that thing with shorts on. Yeah. I did not know that they were considered dangerous and now they're not on playgrounds.
I don't know. I don't frequent playgrounds. But I feel like nowadays,
maybe you should.
Things are like, that's too dangerous for the childrens. So
I think the childrens need to get a little stronger, a little backbone, I don't know, something.
I agree. Childrens, if you're listening, find you a seesaw
or a teeter-totter
and have at it.
I want John to build one for our goats.
Aww.
Oh, for anybody who doesn't know, I have goats, 3 of them, and chickens. But yeah, wouldn't that be funny to see them out there? Yeah. Yep.
Do you think one of them would fly off?
We're not going to build it so that they can launch each other.
I've only ever seen that kind.
That's not the kind you build for goats, Denise.
Oh, okay.
We'll invite you over. You can help us build it.
Yay!
Invite us, John.
Okay.
Okay, great. You and John can build it.
I'm fine with that. I like building things.
I will serve refreshments.
Yay.
Great.
I love it.
Okay, so let's dive in. What do you think?
Let's.
Dreams, creativity. Okay, so when you were a kid, some things that you enjoyed, some creative endeavors in childhood that maybe now looking back shows up as the inspiration, the impetus for some of the stuff that you do present day. Anything?
Tons. So I love colors, and that has been evident since as soon as I can remember. So I had markers, colored pencils, the oil pastels, which I never knew how to use.
Oh, no. That's professional level.
Yeah. I had watercolors. I had all that stuff. And I also used to make itineraries for myself. I would have wake up at 9:25 and it would always be a 5. I don't know why. It would always be off. It wasn't always 9 a.m. or 8 a.m.
Is that your small rebellion?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
All right.
And so I'd be like, wake up at 8:25 and then brush my teeth 8:35 and then 8:45, change clothes, 8:55, eat breakfast. And then I'd have a block for reading. I'd have a block for writing. And I never did it the next day. I woke up the next day and passed whatever schedule I had made for myself. So I was already behind. And so I was like, well, I guess we can't do this schedule. And I remember sometimes I would try to pick it up in the afternoon. Okay, we'll wait till noon and we'll hop back
Regroup.
in, right? Like I'm jumping in a jumping rope. And no, that wouldn't last too long because then mom was making lunch. And well, no, I have to go eat lunch. Can't do that.
But did you not schedule lunch?
I think I did, but
Okay.
it just would never.
It wasn't the right time.
Yeah. Yeah, so I couldn't do it. So that failed. What else did I do? I used to write books. I would get a bunch of construction paper. I played with a ton of construction paper. I love doing those murals. You peel off things of paper and you art.
And you art.
And you art. But I would make books and I would fold the pages and I would get a staple to put in the center. I don't even remember what I would write in these things. I think I would just like draw hearts. And then I don't know. I don't remember what I would write in these things.
I want to know young Denise. The present day Denise is fabulous, but I wish I could go back and know her. She sounds great.
And I was just like by myself, always doing these things in my room, in my little quietness where nobody was in. What else did I do? I used to play with the beads, GIMP, right? What else? I tried to do t-shirts. They never looked good.
What do you mean tried to do them?
T-shirt paint stuff. And
oh, yes. Okay.
I would try to do that. So anything to create, I was always on board with.
This is fascinating because I'm seeing fingerprints of all of that all over what you do now.
But there was like a good 10 or so years that I did none of them. And I had my creative stuff. I have little luggages where I put all my stuff in. I got into scrapbooking a lot too at one point.
Okay.
And so I never wanted to get rid of them because I knew that I liked it, but just all the things that was happening in life, I just didn't. So I would just haul this thing around where like whatever new house I was going to be living at. And only in the last few years have I really gotten into it and started just doing all the things all over again.
Was the break from all of that an intentional, conscious choice, or was it just something that faded into the background for a little bit?
It definitely faded. I had a lot of other things coming up in life that either like stress or it definitely wasn't a positive space. So I didn't have that desire to do anything anymore. I was just trying to get through each day.
Interesting. It's fascinating to me that the creative impulse, the desire to create, not that it can't come from a difficult time, because that's why we have lots of books and works of art that came out of a painful period of someone's life. But it's interesting to me that when you were in your healthier stages, that's when the creativity showed up for you. That's really interesting.
A lot of my writing, though, came from difficult times.
Okay.
So if you were to compare happy to not happy pieces of writing, maybe only 10% are joyous celebration type things.
Okay.
And then everything else is processing something or along those lines.
But see, I feel like that's still the healthy outlet for an unhealthy internal whatever was going on. Fascinating.
I also wanted to be a teacher.
Me too.
I would set up my
Did
classroom.
you play school?
Yes, I
me
played
too.
School. And then I would teach my stuffed animals. They were all lined up for class. I remember that. And my little Cabbage Patch Kids, I love those things.
Oh, yes.
I would teach them. We would do English. We would do writing. I don't know what other subjects I did. I think we did math. I used to really like math. But yeah.
I did not like math.
No?
No.
I did really like it. I can't say I'm any good at it anymore, but growing up, for sure, I was getting really good at it.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. English and writing and reading and all that was definitely my avenue, not math. History. I liked history. More the stories. I liked the stories.
Yeah.
Math doesn't tell me a story.
Oh.
Word problems are the most awful stories. So sorry for anybody who loves math and who is a math teacher. It didn't settle in my heart. I'm glad it settled in yours, though, because we need you.
Going to the store and buying 77 bananas.
No, who does that? Psycho.
And then 66 apples.
No. Who are you feeding? Are you making fruit salad for the entire neighborhood?
Probably.
All right. Well, see, I want to know the story behind that. Why are you making fruit salad for the entire neighborhood?
I agree. Because otherwise it would be a waste of food.
Yes. You can't do that.
No.
It's very deeply ingrained.
I don't like that.
No.
I'll eat other people's food. Don't waste food, you guys. Jesus don't like that. But what about you? What did you have? What were your childhood dreams? What were your creativity signs?
Oh, my goodness. I wanted to be a ballerina.
Oh,
yeah.
I did that for a little bit.
Me too.
Yeah?
Yeah, I even got to the point where I was on point shoes.
Oh.
Yes, I still have my first pair of point shoes. Yeah, loved it. And then other extracurricular activities took
Your
precedent.
Little tutu, little grand plies.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I want to see little Brooke.
No, I feel like we need to make sure we have pictures.
Next one, we got to bring in pictures. We'll bring in pictures of ourselves when we were little on the next one, guys.
Oh my gosh, I had like the little poof bangs.
Oh.
It was like just like a little frizzy poof right there.
I love that.
Yeah. Yep. But I really wanted to be a teacher. From the time that I was in first grade, I wanted to be a teacher. And then when I was in fourth grade, because of my fourth grade English teacher, I decided I was going to be an English teacher. And I did that for like 15 years. and I loved it. My students, however, did not behave as well as my stuffed animals did. I don't know if I was a much better teacher to my stuffed animals.
Did it have anything to do with the Oxford comma?
No, everyone who it was in my class loved the Oxford comma because
I don't believe
because
that.
they were taught well.
I don't believe that.
Oxford comma promotes clarity in communication, which is like as many similarities as you and I have. Maybe that's a difference.
It's heavy seasoning in my writing. Feels unnecessary and extra.
That's a whole other topic
This
right
is
there.
Me being loving.
Unnecessary and extra.
I would know.
So teacher, ballerina. I also wanted to write. I wanted to be an author, but I also had a desire to be an actress. However, anytime there was a play or anything in school, it was paralyzing. It made me so nervous, even though I really wanted to do it. So I don't know what that was about. That's probably something I should talk to God about. But I feel like in being a teacher, those things showed up in different ways. You have to act not in a performance, not in a false sense, but students aren't going to buy into whatever it is that you're teaching unless you're really gung-ho about it. And so in reading stories, I would do voices with my student. I would whichever character, and they would tell me, so lovely, they would tell me if I was out for a day and there was a substitute teacher, they didn't read it like you do. We like it better when you read it.
Aww.
So, there's a little bit of acting in there, and obviously being an English teacher, there was some writing in there, but not in the way that I wanted it when I was a kid, because I wanted to write a novel. I still have some years left. Maybe that'll come out sometime soon.
Could.
That'd be fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I liked, oh my gosh, scented markers, construction paper. And I loved it that anytime I wanted to do anything creative, I would ask my dad, do we have whatever it was that I needed? And we always had it. We always had art supplies. Because my dad was, and still is, very, very creative and unbelievable artist, painting, drawing. He baked. He's like the Renaissance man. And so it seemed like anytime I ever needed or wanted this thing to create something, we had it on hand. It was amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Aww.
I would also play Office. I don't know what my office was.
What was that like?
Oh, I would set up my little desk and I'd have the stapler and the tape dispenser and some papers and pen and envelopes. And I have no idea what my job was, but I was playing Office.
Post-it notes, the colorful ones. That's what I would have.
Oh, see, my childhood existed before there were Post-it notes.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
You missed out.
Well, I've used them since.
Did you play instruments?
I took piano lessons.
Ooh.
And I also learned how to play alto sax.
Ooh.
Yeah, I really always wanted to be a drummer.
Our own Kenny G. We'll have her play a number for Christmas.
No, we won't.
Stay tuned.
No. You can stay tuned, but it's not happening. You'll be staying tuned for a long time. Yeah, I always wanted to be a drummer, but I didn't have the rhythm for that. But people told me if I took ballet and if I could play piano, then I did have rhythm. I don't know. I just felt like my brain had to split into two to play the drums, and it never made sense to me. Yeah.
I love it. I love music.
Did you play any instruments?
I did. In school, I did the viola and the clarinet.
What?
Mm-hmm. And I taught myself how to play the piano. Not like full on, but like beginner status.
Yeah.
And so that was neat.
Neat.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the only thing. And then Guitar Hero came out. I always wanted to learn to play the guitar.
Okay, here.
And I still do. I have one.
Okay, but see, I just want to know how to play guitar.
I know,
I don't want to learn.
I just want to whip it out one day and just like
yes,
surprise everyone. They're going to be like, oh my gosh.
Exactly. Yep.
Wow. And it's like some amazing guitar solo.
Yes.
That we're rocking out to. But yeah, I have to learn first. And it's just not
my
as
fingers.
It's not as exciting. But yeah, then Guitar Hero came out, and then I love that. I used to take lunch breaks at work to go home and play for an hour. Oh yeah. I had it always planned out. I'd have it set up. I'd have a beer out too. And I'd just be playing whatever song it was. And then I got into the drum set for that. And I really like that. See? So that's as far as I got with instruments.
I feel like maybe we could start a band.
We could. Each of us plays 4 different instruments. It's an 8-piece, 2-people band.
That would be impressive. I think
the musical pod.
Guys,
look what she made us. We have mugs with our peas on it. And then I have my brand Misfit.
Blueprint, heart, and mind.
And that's so cute.
Cheers.
Yay.
Okay, you have to.
You just like hit the table first, no?
So these creative inspirations we've seen in childhood, was there anyone, because I said that my fourth grade teacher, my goodness, Mrs. McIntyre, love her. She absolutely inspired me. So were there any people who were helping you along in these endeavors, and or maybe somebody who hopefully inadvertently, hopefully it wasn't purposely, maybe diminished some of the creativity?
Definitely both. I had some people very close to me that I remember vividly, like remarks in my face about things, and it would be very discouraging to want to continue doing anything or to really even try, because I just assumed that everybody else felt that way too, because that was part of the things, like, well, nobody wants to see this, or nobody cares, and stuff like that. I remember my kindergarten teacher, she was so sweet, Mrs. West. She ended up becoming the principal.
Oh.
I grew up going to a Catholic school, and I remember the teachers for St. Patrick's, they would always decorate their room like the leprechaun came and trashed everything.
Nice.
And I remember that. And that was so fun. But she was always so encouraging. I don't remember her ever saying anything discouraging to her students, and just always encouraging them to explore further whatever it is they were doing. And then I had maybe not so much teachers anymore at that point that were encouraging, just complete strangers, which always boggled my mind.
Wow.
That it was complete strangers that would be super encouraging about what I was doing and celebrating me for it. But those that were in my circle, those that were close to me, just didn't really have a ton to say about that positively.
Interesting. Poor little Denise over there with her books and her construction paper.
My agendas that I didn't follow. Maybe that's why. Like, she's not going to follow through anyway. Maybe. They were really good schedules, you guys. I can still see them in my head. And in my little notebooks. What about you?
I had people who were helpful, and then same as you. So there were some people who I really don't think it was intentional. I think they were looking out for me. They really did want the best for me. And because there were some things that I wanted to do that, for example, I thought I wanted a farm. And I had a very, very tender heart when I was a kid, and still do, but I couldn't watch nature shows because the animals' circle of life, something was dying, and I would cry. And people who knew my heart and who knew how sensitive I was would say, I don't really know if having a farm is a good idea, because you own animals, there is death. Even if it's not animals that you're raising for food, animals die. And so they knew that my heart would be crushed by that. But my little kid heart didn't take that as you're looking out for me. It just felt more like maybe a farm isn't the best idea for you. And at one time I thought I wanted to be an architect. And again, I didn't like math. Architecture requires a lot of math. And so again, different people would point out, well, you say you don't like math, so how would you be able to do that? And so I put that aside. And it was probably for the best, because the kind of math I would have had to do to be an architect was probably not something that was going to bring me joy. It was probably going to be soul killing for me. But I don't know, because I didn't try. But what I find interesting is I now have a farm. And while my husband...
It's so cute, you guys.
And while my husband and father-in-law are doing like 98% of the work on the house, which thank you both so much, I get to do the design of it. I'll say to both of them, this is the picture in my head. Is it possible? Can we do X, Y, Z? And they'll say, well, we can do it like this, or maybe we'd have to change that. And so it's almost like I get to be an architect without having to do any of the math.
Oh,
I love how God has redeemed that for me.
That.
I know. Isn't that fun?
And John's dad, if you need help, I am happy and offering my services. Please make sure there's supervision.
Well, if we give you an itinerary, are you going to show up?
Yes, roughly around the start time.
I don't think you know what you got yourself into, because anytime anybody says, I would love to help, we take them seriously. And you've seen our house. There's a lot of work left to do.
I like doing that stuff because I always wanted to build my own house from the ground up.
Yeah.
I've always thought that would be amazing, and have a ton of land, small house, ton of land, and have the porch that's covered so I can be in my rocking chair and rock when it's raining,
and
so
say,
I can say, we needed this. So since I can't do that right now, and they are so living my dream, and that dream is in very good hands, by the way. They sent me a video recently where they were on the porch when it was raining, and it made me so happy.
It's the least we could do for you, Denise.
Thanks. I loved it. So now that we're much older and we've experienced many things, what would you tell your younger self today?
Oh my goodness. So many things that she needed to hear. I think one of the things I would tell her is no one is as critical as you think they are about what you're wanting to do. I felt like whatever it was that I was doing, I would have to do it perfectly, which what does that even mean? But little me had this idea that I couldn't make mistakes. And I think I operated under this idea that there was going to be criticism rather than encouragement or praise. And it was somewhat paralyzing to the point where there were a lot of times that I wouldn't even try to do some of the more creative things that I wanted to do, which I think that probably played into why I didn't want to participate in school musicals or anything, because I believed that I would receive more criticism than encouragement. And I don't know if that was true. That's my perception of it. And so I think I would want younger me to know, just go and do it and have fun. And I know a lot of times when you're a little kid, people tell you, don't worry about what other people think. You don't have to care about what other people think. But man, that's so much harder to do than it is when somebody can say that. And that sounds great.
Easier said than done.
Yeah. My brain understood that, but my heart did not understand. Don't worry about what other people think of you. And I would love for younger me to know that just go and do it and have fun. And people are going to think whatever they're going to think anyway. So just
This is true.
you go and do the thing that you want to do. Yeah, I would like her to know that.
I love that.
And I want to tell her, you will have a farm. It's coming.
Oh, can you just picture that? Like you're like whispering that into her ear. I think that would be so cute.
See, now if I could draw, I would draw that picture.
I know, I was thinking the exact same thing. If I could draw that, if I could. Well, the thought's there, and I hear that's what counts. So there's my gift to you.
Great, thank you. I received that gift. Thank you so much. How about you? What would you tell young Denise?
So you touched on a couple points that I was going to talk about for when this got directed my way. I try to prepare for these things, like when I ask things,
Look at you.
because I always want to know things, but then I don't want them to ask me. So I got to, like, as I start asking, I usually start thinking. Anyway, so you had mentioned that everything had to be perfect and that you couldn't make mistakes. And I felt like that too. I think now you'll hear me say often, don't be afraid to make mistakes, because that's how you grow. That's how you learn. That's how you get closer to the goal that you're trying to achieve. And I say that one so loudly because it was crippling for me as a kid to not want to do that, because the people that were so critical for me were very, very close to me. So that really stung. You want those closest to you to be approving of things that you're doing, to celebrate with you and to encourage you. And so when you're not getting that, when you're a kid, you're not going to have, well, maybe they're going through something. That's not really what, at 6 years old, you're not thinking that, right?
No.
You're just like, oh no, I can't do it. Or I'm not good enough for that. They said I can't do it, so I probably can't do it then. They're probably right. So my thing that I would tell myself, little me, is that hurt people. And so the things that may be getting told to you, even today, if this is still happening to you and it's still affecting you, has more to do with what they're going through and what they're experiencing than you. They're giving viewpoints based on their personal experiences, but they are not you. We're all wired differently. We all have different purposes and things that we're going to achieve in life. Don't be fixated on it. So yeah, easier said than done on not caring about what people think. Maybe it's validation that you haven't been getting and that you need, and that's why that's important to you, that acceptance, because it's something that you've been lacking, and now we're hoping that we can get it from other people. Well, we get it from God, right?
Yes.
To tie it back to what really matters here. All of that validation, all of that love, that self-worth, that value is we get all that from God. He's the one who created us. He's the one who truly knows who we are, what we're capable of, and what we're sent out to be in this world. So I think I would talk to younger me about that a little bit more. I would prepare her for those moments when she thought that this one really bad thing was just this one really bad thing that she needed to get through, and really ended up just being harder and harder and harder. And so I would just tell little me that things are going to get harder, but you'll grow a lot in it. All of it. The hardships, the relationships, anything that hurts, God can use that to your benefit to get you to who you were always meant to be. So I would tell little me to just hang in there. Yeah. You're actually not alone. You have somebody guiding you and protecting you the whole way, even if you don't understand what that looks like right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting that in more recent years, in conversations that I have with God, because I would look at my tender heart as almost detrimental. I didn't like it. And he told me that he purposely designed me that way, that it is a gift. And I argued with him a little bit about that because it didn't feel like a gift. And then he continued.
Did you get made fun of that a lot?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I did too.
Yeah, I cried at movies or books, and I was called a sissy. Like, what's wrong with you? Yeah. And he had to then continue to show me examples of how my tender heart is a gift. And in working with other people, it's very evident that I want to help other people find the truth about those kinds of things that they believe about themselves. And the thing is, the person who told me, hey, you're going to be sad if you have a farm and your animals die or something happens, they were right. I am not at all ashamed to say, early on when I was learning all about chickens, I had several of them die, and I wept over every one of those chickens because I raised them from a day old, and it was painful that they died. And it was in that process that God talked to me a lot. See, I've created you to care for my creation. Because he knew every one of those chickens. And while it was painful, and while that person was right, it was difficult on my sensitive heart, I started to be able to see it as a gift that God showed me that I love others well, including my chickens. So I now see it as a huge gift.
I love it.
Yeah.
It is a gift. I agree. I think for me, I see it more when I get a lot of people that trauma dump on me. And I don't say that in a bad way. I'm always going to want to know your story. I'm going to want to know what keeps you up at night. I want to know details of your story. And so it happens often that people will come to me and tell me what's going on in their lives. And with all the stuff that I had been through, also being super tenderhearted, crying a ton all the time, I feel like I can relate to maybe where they have been and what they were feeling. So it puts me in a position now where I can coach them through it, being who I needed when I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, all through my life, even when I was in elementary school, people would come to me and go, I don't really know why, but I think I want to talk to you about this thing that's going on in my life. And I'd be like, yeah, sure, great, let's talk about it. And now that's what I do. I do coach people. So
she does.
Isn't that interesting how God, everything has been molded and shaped this whole time, and we just weren't necessarily aware of it.
Yeah.
He's so cool.
I know. It's almost like he knows what he's doing.
It is. Interesting. It's fascinating.
Now that we've invited God to this section of the podcast. Hi, God.
What up, God?
How do we think that God uses our creativity when it looks like something we didn't expect it to?
Well, I think that's the key right there, is what we expected. I think sometimes we have these ideas of what creativity is. And I mentioned my dad. Phenomenal artist. He can draw anything. He can paint anything. He'll find a picture and then recreate it with some media, whether it's pencil, drawing, painting, whatever. And as a child, I would see him do this, and I would want to do the same thing. But what I didn't understand when I was a little kid is that he didn't just start out that good. There was a lot of trial and error. There was a lot of practice. There was a lot of making mistakes. There was a lot of erasing. But all I saw was the years and years and years of his gift after it had been honed. And I thought I could just pick up a pencil or a paintbrush and do the same thing. And I didn't realize that there was going to be a lot of learning along the way. And so that whole don't make mistakes thing really messed that up. But I think because that was the kind of creativity that was modeled for me, that's what I thought was creative, was drawing and painting. And what I didn't realize was that creativity is also, I wouldn't have thought of it, but it's obvious now to me that there's a lot of creativity in ballet. There's a lot of creativity in having land in a farm. There's a lot of creativity in me sitting across from someone one-on-one and listening to their life story and how I would help them navigate that. The way that creativity now shows up in my life is not the stereotypical, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's not only painting and drawing. I love to cook, and I really don't follow recipes. I'll take the basics from a recipe, but then I'm like, you know what I think would be really good is a little more of this, or, ooh, do I have this spice? Do I have this thing? And I'll just throw stuff in. And that definitely comes from my grandmother. She did not use recipes. And I would ask her, how much flour goes in here? How much garlic goes in there? How much whatever the ingredient was? And she would, she would go, this much. And throw it. I'm like, but was that was that a tablespoon? Was that a quarter of a cup? Like, I don't know what that is.
Smaller.
How much, what was that measurement? But now I love that I just have a general sense of how to cook. I will follow a recipe if it's something new, but there's a lot of creativity in, I think this flavor would go really well with this flavor. And I just try stuff. And there, for some reason, making mistakes doesn't bother me as much. Because let's face it, unless I really screw it up, it's food and it's going to taste good. Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting how making mistakes in one area is paralyzing and making mistakes someplace else? It's like, we'll fix it. We'll figure it out. It's still good. Yeah.
We got to apply that mentality in other areas.
Preach.
Because didn't Picasso get, like, he wasn't popular initially. They thought his paintings were weird.
Yeah, I feel like most artists, I feel like, were famous after they weren't around to know how much people appreciated their work.
Yeah. And now we see weird and we're like, take my money. The weirder, the better. That looks jacked up. How much do you want for it? You know what I mean?
I know, Picasso missed it. Like, this is his time.
Poor guy.
Okay, so how about you?
How about me?
How about you?
I love that you mentioned the different types of creativity, not just painting, drawing, all those things, and how it can present itself. Cooking, for example, the one that you gave. Also, I love cooking, and so love that about us. Mm-hmm. But I would even add some more to that list. Communication. Yeah. Creatively. Like when we're having emotions, how can we creatively communicate that in a way that owns our feelings and what we're going through and doesn't offend or attack the person that we love that we're trying to resolve conflict with. That's one thing I had to learn because I wouldn't talk to anybody. I would just shut down if anybody asked me anything. Like the girl you know today is not who I was. And if you know me today, you know that I have no problem telling you an opinion of mine or what I think needs to happen. But you don't want to just outright do that. So learning to communicate creatively in a healthy way, which encourages and strengthens your relationships versus the other, is one area. I think even like programming, right? And not that I'm a programmer, because I'm not. Thank you, MySpace. Shout out to MySpace, because I learned how to code and I had my webpage up and I would add music and things like that. So when I was coding, I would have to be creative in that. If I'm doing a slideshow here, or if I'm going to do a video above that one, am I doing a banner that's like blinking? Am I adding a song? And how long is that song playing? So all those things present itself too. Even in math, there's creativity for how you get to the solution, because what? It's like mental gymnastics that I am not signing up for, you guys. But yeah, there's a lot of different areas. So I've heard sometimes when people are like, oh, well, I'm not creative, so I can't come up with that. And it's like, no, that's not true. But if it is something that you like doing, guys, I strongly encourage you to keep trying and keep practicing, because you can't get better at something until you start.
I recently, in a conversation with somebody, they had said something to me about how they didn't think of themselves as creative. And I understand that, because once upon a time, I would say that about myself too. But we are created in God's image. That's what we are told in Scripture. And He is immensely creative. So if we are made in His image, then we are creative. It's just a matter of finding what your creativity looks like. And I encouraged this person to have a conversation with God and ask Him what her creativity looks like, because He has put Himself in each of us. And so how did He express one facet of his creativity in her, because it's going to look different for her than it's going to look for me or for you. And I think that's the most amazing thing about it, is that maybe I wasn't designed to draw and paint like my dad does. That was the kind of creativity that God decided to put into him. And so maybe I have a conversation with God about my creativity and what does that look like, and what form of creativity did God want to reflect through me, because he made each of us in his image, but he made each of us unique. And so we are creative. It's just a matter of finding what my flavor of it looks like.
I love that. I love that. I would also add on to our list earlier, creativity presenting itself in problem solving or even planning events.
Oh my gosh,
There's
yes.
a lot of stuff there. And so even though it's not on some big official platform like an art gallery, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not creative. And as Brooke was saying, these are just different areas of God reflecting his creativity in you. So just because your creativity looks different than how you would have expected creativity to look like, it doesn't mean that it's still not God ordained. So I strongly encourage you guys, like Brooke said, have a conversation with God and see where he's reflecting that in you if you don't know already.
And we keep saying that. And if that is something that you're feeling like, I don't really know what they mean when they say have a conversation with God, get in touch with us, because we both love to talk about that, which we can eventually talk about on an episode. But I feel like now's not the episode to do that, but just realizing that that's just part of our life and part of our vocabulary. And so we might be saying that, and listeners, people who are viewing, might be going, I don't know what they mean. So let us know if you're not really sure, because we would love to have that conversation with you.
Mm-hmm. Get me on a soapbox for a long time on that, guys. Love to walk you through that. And mostly just to share the impact it has made on me and how I view what a relationship with God was supposed to look like, is supposed to look like, and how it looks like, and how it presents itself on a daily basis in the details, and not just some like hovering spiritual being who created things and that's it, and we don't talk to him again until we die, because that's not the case either.
Yeah, talk about creativity in the way that he communicates with each of us.
Differently for each of us.
Yes, that'll unlock some creativity for sure.
So we won't dive fully into that, but I did want to talk about one aspect, because it is something that we're going to keep mentioning and bringing up, and that's prayer. Everyone has a different understanding of what prayer means. And so when we say it, it may be different than what you're used to, what you've heard, or it may be similar to what you're doing. But I thought it would be helpful to clarify that from the get-go for what that's going to look like or be understood as going forward. Do you want to tell us what prayer is to you?
I like how you bring these things up and then immediately throw them to me. You could talk about them too.
Oh, I plan to talk about it too.
Yeah, so prayer for me it's simply a conversation. It's just how I communicate. But there are all different ways, just like I have all different ways that I communicate to my friends or to my husband. But really, I have conversations with God like I have conversations with just about anyone else. And he communicates back to me just like when I'm in a conversation with somebody else. But it is a very connecting thing. It is a very, very relational thing. I don't just come to God with my requests, which I do because that's allowed. But my conversations with him are far more just like it would be that you have with any other human. I ask him questions, and not just for information. I ask him questions like you ask somebody at the beginning of a relationship, because you want to get to know them more and you want to know all the little details about them. Even this far into my relationship with God, there are too many things to know about him that I'm never going to come to the end of knowing all of the things about him. And so I really still just have the kinds of conversations with him that you have with somebody when you want to know more about them, when it feels new, even though my relationship with God has been around for quite some time. But prayer to me feels more like connection and building relationship. And it's not just, it's almost like sometimes if you're on the phone and you just say all the things that you want to say and then you go, okay, goodbye, and you hang up and you don't give the other person a chance to respond. I definitely say all the things I want to say, but then I also make sure there's time and space for God to respond to me.
I love that. I think that's super important. That's definitely not the prayer life that I knew growing up.
Oh, no. Mm-mm.
So for me, it was very much, you come to God for all the big things. Like someone in your family has cancer. You can't do anything about that. So definitely let's ask God, let's pray for them. And then when someone dies, a thing. I remember years ago coming into a class and they were giving out prayer requests, and I didn't have anybody that had cancer. I didn't have anything to say out loud. And I remember one of the people in the class praying about a meeting that was coming up at work and that God would be with them through it. And I remember thinking like, what? For a meeting? You can't take care of that yourself? Wow. I obviously see this very differently now, you guys. But at the time I was like, okay. And I was used to the whole, you just ask God for all your things. Like he's this ATM. Here, God, this is what I need you to do. Okay, thanks. And then maybe he does it and maybe he doesn't. And that you probably weren't going to understand why God was putting you through what you're going through, why he's making you experience these things you may never know, and you're just supposed to be okay with it. Incorrect. And that's where your prayer life is, right? So that's like Brooke says, it's when I have that time with God and I am going through something and I'm checking in, like, okay, what's happening here? What are you trying to teach me? But again, as Brooke was saying, it's very important to leave that extra time to hear from him because he wants to tell us, he wants us to know, and he wants to do this with us. He wants that information on that meeting coming this week, not because he doesn't know it already, but just to invite him into that space to do it together because he wants to do life with us hand in hand. It's not just like, all right, 10 minutes before bed and these are all my requests and thanks God. So it becomes something that's a day-long thing. Prayer, sometimes it's just in the car and I'm talking to him, and sometimes at my desk and praying about specific things and asking him questions and hearing what he has to say to me about it. So when we say pray about it, I don't want you guys to think like, okay, well then what? Like, okay, God, I'm praying about it. And then you just kind of like are stuck there. Or what does that even mean? So that for me, that's what prayer is. It's that time that I'm with God. It's the time that we're working on that relationship. Like Brooke said, it's a close relationship. It's an intimate relationship, should be. If it's not, let's talk to you about that to get closer to you, by the way. But it's meant to be that personal. And that's that time that you're spending to get to know him more and what it is that he wants for you. Me in this case. Yeah, those are my thoughts on prayer.
Those are great thoughts on prayer.
Yay. It took a long time to learn about that, you guys.
Oh, yeah, because same for you. It was... that was not how I was taught as a child. That's not what the church that I grew up in, that's not how they talked about prayer. This has absolutely been within the last 10 or 12 years of my life that shift has happened. And just yesterday, God and I were talking about something and something new came up. And I love that I've not come to the end of all of the new things with him. It's just so fun.
I love that in reading. Mm-hmm. The same passage that you've read 25 times and you hop in and this time it's something completely different that jumps out at you. It's fun. It's never ending. Yeah. There's always something to learn about God because he's so creative. He's so creative. And he made us. So
be creative.
I'm very creative. Yeah.
So just to say a little bit more on for those who are listening or watching who feel like, yeah, that's great. I hear what you're saying, but I'm still not creative. I think I'm hoping at least that we've touched on enough of but what did it look like in childhood to demonstrate that whatever you were up to when you were a kid, the things that you loved, the things that just, there was a spark there for you, chances are that's more than a hint for where your creativity lies, because something happens after childhood. You ask any child, they will tell you all of the ways that they are creative. And I don't know when it happens, but at some point in life, we decide, whether it's because somebody told us something, whether we've had a negative experience, but there's a point where we make a decision, I am no longer creative. And if we can get back to that younger place where you ask any little kid, they will show you all of their drawings, they will dance for you, they will sing, and they don't care if they can't carry a tune. They don't even know what that means. They're just doing it because they love it. If you are struggling with feeling like I'm not really creative, if you've decided I am not creative, take a look back into your childhood and see what those things were that brought joy and life and a spark to you, because that's where your creativity lies. It's usually a very good indication of how that could look in life right now for you. You've heard Denise and me say, and I don't know about you, but I didn't say all of the things that I liked to do as a kid, all of the ways that I wanted to be creative because it could be a whole other episode. But look back at what you loved.
We'll share those in part 2.
Yes, we are doing part 2. That's right. And even the things like we were both told, you're too sensitive, your heart is too tender. Look back at some of those things, because again, I could almost say 100% guarantee. I'll say 99% guarantee that those are actually gifts that you've been given and that the world needs, and the world needs it the way that you offer it. And so you spending some time looking back at those areas of your life, I think will spark something in you that is in there. It's just been dormant for a while and you've not recognized it. But the things from our childhood, the things that we were often criticized for, are often the things that God specifically placed in us to be reflections of him. And there's also a negative force in the world who does not want you to be who God designed you to be. And that place in you has been attacked. Those places that God has put in you very much purposefully by design. And so look back at those areas. And again, that's where that conversational relationship with God comes into play, because asking him to look back at those things with you, almost like looking back, I'm going to age myself here, looking back at an old photograph album. And so I guess...
What's that?
Hush. If you flip through the pictures in your phone, looking back at old pictures, it's inviting him to do that with you. He'll point out things that maybe you didn't notice the first time around or the 75th time around.
If you're wondering how you would even know that that could be the case, for me, what tipped me off was I started realizing that I was using a lot of statements like, oh, I used to do this. I used to do that. I used to be really good at this. I used to be really good at that. And I started realizing like, wow, how long it's been since I stopped doing that, and what was happening then. And is that something that God wants me to revive? Is that something that he wanted me to do something with and I just didn't? That was my cue to start asking God.
That's
about
fantastic.
things.
Yeah. And also just find something that sparks creativity, whether you're good at it or not. I recently started doing watercolor painting, and I like this. If you know me, if you've known me for any length of time, you'll know that this is evidence of serious healing. I'm painting stuff just for fun. I don't care what it looks like. Do I want it to look good? Of course. But that's not the goal. The goal is not to make this perfect thing, this perfect picture, this perfect representation of whatever. I'm just playing. And it's like, oh, wonder what these two colors look like mixed together. I wonder what, if I use this brush over that brush, wonder what that'll do. And it's just fun, and I'm doing it just for me. It's not for any other purpose than I wonder what this looks like. Mm-hmm. And that's a really easy way to engage in creativity as well, as just start with I wonder and see where it goes.
I spend a lot of time living in my creativity. It's a huge bulk. It's everything, I think, of what I do now, actually. And so you'll hear things like writer's block. And so that can happen too when you're trying to be creative. And one thing my brother and I have talked about is, like you're talking about, just starting. So there are times when I want to draw something, I don't know what I want to draw, but I literally have to just start drawing lines and circles until I eventually get to something. I'll finish whatever I'm doing there, or then the thought comes, right? Sometimes you just have to start doing something to finally get you in it. Same with writing. I'm feeling some kind of way. I need to write something, and I don't know what I'm going to write about. So I'm just writing random words, or even just song lyrics for something that's playing in the background. But then that'll just start going. Like you started created that space and your mind starts working and you end up just jumping into it.
Mm-hmm. Love it. That's very good advice. You just got to dive in, and stuff will, the more you do it, the more stuff will flow. Mm-hmm. Just got to get into the flow. It makes me think of the turtles in Finding Nemo. You just got to get into it.
Oh, yeah. What was his name?
Crush.
Yes. Oh, shout out to Crush. Get a lot of valuable advice from these movies. So when it comes to our calling and the creativity that we have, it's not always going to be something new. You're not always starting from scratch. You can, if you want, like maybe God will inspire that in you to take up something brand new, and then you guys are teamwork in that one and going. But it could just be something like what I mentioned earlier, where I was like, oh, I used to do this. Maybe it's that. And it's just you're growing into that, and that's what you'll be using in your calling. So maybe it's from scratch and maybe it's not. So I think that's the only disclaimer I wanted to add, is don't think that it has to be something brand new. it's most likely something that's already in you.
Yeah, I think the key is to stay curious. Don't lock yourself into it has to be new or it has to be something that I've already experienced. Just stay curious and invite God into the process and see what it is that he wants to show you about whether it's new or something that's been there for a while. But just be curious about it.
And you don't have to be good at it. And it doesn't have to be perfect.
No.
And you can make your mistakes because all of that is part of your testimony. And all of that is going to be what encourages somebody else.
Oh my goodness. And can we please throw out the I'm too old or it's too late or I've wasted time, or can we just throw those things out? Because, oh my goodness, they're not true, first of all. And I think they are huge detriments, like putting a giant cement wall smack in the middle of your ability to be creative. Because again, we've talked about we are reflections of our creator. It's right there in one of the names we have for him. He is a creator. And so he is creative. And if we're made in his image, then so are we. It is baked in. It is part of our DNA. It's part of who we are. It's just a matter of finding it. But yeah, throw out the I'm too old or it's too late or I should have started earlier or whatever version of it. Because I know you have one. And I know you have one because I have some of those things. And I know Denise does too. Because again, who we are, the way that we've been designed is attacked because it's very necessary. The world needs who we are and what we bring to the table.
I agree. One thing I like to tell people is for example, in the I'm too old, right? Say you're 40 and it's like, well, I'm 40, it's too late. Okay, well, at some point.
Wait, 40 is too late?
I know you guys in the older crowd may feel that way. The point I'm making is whether like 10 years will pass, you'll be 50, right? That time is going to pass no matter what.
Yep.
Whether you like it or not. So you can either have that next cool thing under your belt or not. And then you can just spend that time being all mopey about it. Back in, used to do all this. And you're going to keep saying, I used to do all this. And you weren't meant to used to. You're meant to keep doing it.
Oh, that needs to be a t-shirt. You weren't meant to used to.
T-shirts.
Yeah, see?
I love it. Stay tuned. I'll bring a closet in here. Different t-shirts. I love it. So guys, we're making this episode a 2-part episode, how it started to how it's going. So today we wanted to shine some more light on how it started, childhood, clues that we've identified in our lives, and then we'll explore a little bit more about what it looks like living out of that and challenges that come along the way. So yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. We are Prodigal Peas in a Pod.
Whoop, whoop.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
I think I get it now. I need to be myself because a copycat can only do so well. In love with everything that makes me who I am. Don't need a backup plan. I hope they understand that I'm doing better today. I got me a mission. I got some fruition. You down to stay out the way. Can't seek validation from people who hating. I got my mentality straight. Shout out to God. I've been keeping the first. You've been working and paving the way. And now I can guarantee you that's the way to live. Way to live. Promise that's the way to live. Way to live. Promise that's the way to live. Way to live.
So to kind of,
I'm ready.
we had a little dance break there, ladies and
Do
gentlemen.
the dance.
Not
Get
gonna
down
finish
now. See
that.
what the next line. I was like,
That's gonna be our ending right there.
yeah.